Okay. John Nicholson.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Dean and Minister Phil. Very well briefed, as always, with facts and figures. Can I start with you, Mr. Dean? I'm interested in knowing what the rules are for awarding funding to good causes, because some are more controversial than others. Are there any rules in place which prevent the funding of political organisations with a small p?
There are 12 grant-making bodies across the country, and it is each of those grant-making bodies will have their own set of rules to follow. I'm not aware of particular rules that ban any organisation being funded, but clearly that organisation needs to prove the actual project that is being funded meets the criteria of that organisation, be it Sport England or the Arts Council or the Scottish equivalent.
Because I've had a lot of mail recently about a grant that's been given to one particular organisation, an organisation I've mentioned here before. The organisation concerned is the so-called LGB Alliance, which the Speaker referred to Common Security because of its abusive record of sending abusive tweets to members of Parliament, including myself, of the most egregious type. Now, this organisation has just been given a grant to fund a helpline for young people. I can't think of a less appropriate organisation. It's got age verification on some of its tweets because they're so abusive. It's been taken off the country's two largest funding sites because it's regarded as a hate organisation. Does that seem appropriate to you for it to be given a grant? Well, if you'd answer, Mr. Dean, first, and then I'm happy to bring the Minister in.
I don't think it's appropriate for me to comment on individual grants given by individual organisations, but the Minister may well want to comment.
I'm aware of this case. This was a grant made by the National Lottery Community Fund, and it was given to the LGB Alliance. The size of the grant was £9,000. And it was to scope out a national advice service for lesbian, gay and bisexual young people aged between 13 and 25. We have raised this issue for the reason that you mention. We've been assured by the grant-making body, in this case, as I say, the National Lottery Community Fund, which is an arm's-length body. They make the decisions, not the government. We've been assured that their decision-making process was in line with their policies and procedures. You've raised the point about, you say you've received personal abuse from this organisation.
They've sent tweets saying that I'm a rape enabler, that I'm a paedophile, the most extraordinary abusive tweets. Mr. Speaker has raised these tweets, having seen them. He's raised this with Common Security. Now, I mean, I'm a member of Parliament in the prime of middle youth, so I can cope with this. But can you imagine if you were a vulnerable young person of 14 and one of the people who'd written those tweets, for example, was on the other end of a helpline?
Yeah.
I mean, they just seem the most unlikely, inappropriate organisation to get this kind of funding. I suspect, you know what? I suspect the money was given innocently. I suspect there was probably a problem of due diligence. And imagine what happened is they thought, oh, LGB Alliance, they sound very nice, it'll be for gay young people. They probably didn't know the history of abuse, because I can't imagine they'd have given the grant.
Well, John, I suspect you may be right in your supposition. Look, I think what I should do, given that you've personally been abused in this way, and you think that's representative of the tweets they send more generally, not just to you.
Well, what they did was anybody who gave money to them was rewarded with a tweet from their account. So if somebody gave money to them, sent something abusive to and about me, the LGB Alliance would then retweet that. And that is why the country's two largest crowdfunding sites took down their accounts. They also had their blue tick removed by Twitter. And as I say, age limitations have been put onto some of their tweets because of the content.
So I think what I should do is, if you can just send me copies of those tweets, I can give you my email address just afterwards. I think I should write to the relevant body, again, the National Lottery Community Fund, asking about the due diligence process they may or may not have gone through, provide the tweets you refer to, and ask that those are taken into account before any further funding decisions get made.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I'm very sorry to hear that you experienced that as well. No one should have to suffer that.
Minister.
Just for a quick question, Damian Green.
Thank you, and I agree that any kind of hateful tweets should be stopped and are wrong. But I should also say, Minister, and ask you to comment on the fact that the characterisation of the LGB Alliance that you've just heard is, I think, incorrect. And you should be aware that Stonewall and its allies are trying to cancel this organisation because they strongly disagree with Stonewall's policies on trans issues, and this is a very live debate. And in fact, when Lord Parkinson was here last week, we had questions and answers, and Lord Parkinson made it clear that he thought the LGB Alliance were entirely appropriate to receive grants through the lottery, and there is correspondence about this subsequently, which before you sort of
may I
reach a
just make
conclusion.
Well, I think I didn't obviously reach any judgment in my comments I just made. I said I would raise the issue with the grant-making body. I think raising the issue's been raised by a Member of Parliament. I think it's right that I pass that on to the relevant grant-making body, but I didn't myself make any value judgment because I'm not in possession of all the facts.
I think that's very sensible.
Thank you, Damien, and thank you, John. Basically, if you could take those two opinions away, and then obviously then you can write to both members if you could do, if that's okay. Thank you. We are though going to now focus on the matter in hand.